We do the one wheelie to the left and to the right, then collide with the car that come with one light.
Where old people say, who can hear will feel. We don't want you to feel pain of any kind. So today's show is chock full of information to improve your life. Coming up on Issues, Finance Minister Audley Shaw provides answers on the operation of the Junior Stock Exchange and other fiscal matters. Also between the pages, festival speech winners take center stage. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay with me. You'll be glad you did. Finance Minister Audley Shaw is back with us on Issues and Answers. In part 2 of our interview, he addresses matters such as the feasibility of the 1.5 tax plan, the continuation of the Junior Stock Exchange, and the economic reform program. Let's join the discussion.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. We have with us the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, the Honourable Audley Shaw. We thank you for your company. Minister, good to have you again so soon after your recent appearance. One of the questions people have is about next year's budget and the plan of the government to fully implement the 1.5 promise. And people point to the amount of money it will take to actually implement that 1.5 next year, April, and they wonder whether you really will be able to complete that two-phase implementation. Oil prices have been sort of going up. There might be some indication that commodities might be inching up between now and next year. Are you sanguine that you will be able to complete the program?
Well, you know, we can't be sanguine about anything. We have to be alert, and we have to be penetrative about all of the opportunities. And you know, I'm always inspired by a term that says, in every adversity, there's always a seed of greater benefit.
Yes.
And that seed of greater benefit that I will start my answer with is to indicate to you that tax reform is still a work in progress. We started with a fiscal responsibility framework, and we started tax reform. The past government carried it along the way with an omnibus legislation and further sure-footed steps in that tax reform process. And yet we have a ways to go. And as I've told you in a previous interview, that the issue of moving to indirect taxation is very much on the table. The 1.5 is only the start of that process.
A comprehensive
of a more comprehensive tax reform. And to that, in that regard, the IMF we've invited the IMF to come and share with us their own knowledge, expertise, experience. And in fact, a team is coming to Jamaica on the 6th of July, and we'll be here for 2 weeks for us to earnestly begin to look at this more comprehensive tax reform that has to be on the table. And what are some of the things that underpin that thinking? It is that in looking, as I said to you before, in looking at the nature and the character of our economy, we have to now design something that fits it, right? And can yield the optimum, not just in what you earn by way of revenue, but interestingly enough, that optimization of which I speak is also how you incentivize the production process. Now, that might be something the IMF don't like to hear.
Controversial, yes.
But that is something we have to be courageous enough to leave on the table. And you know why? Because the rest of the world is doing it.
Absolutely.
Whether the IMF likes it or not.
That is a fact.
Go to New York City. Go to the state of Texas in the United States.
Right,
go to England. Go to Europe.
India.
India, anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Incentives
China.
are there, and incentives are there to stay.
Absolutely.
So guess
right.
what? If I did not, against the IMF's own doctrine, the Junior Stock Exchange, I put that in place. True. Now, the Junior Stock Exchange had just reached a point where it was beginning to literally take off when the previous government was about to shut it down, right? I have stopped that. Now, let's go no further than the LASCO experience, right? LASCO started this new line, iCool drinks. They are now up to 300,000 cases per month. That's out of the Junior Stock Exchange, okay? They are, in a few months' time, going up to about 700,000 cases per month. And Lastrin called me to tell me that by next year, they'll be up to 1.9 million cases per month. That's almost 2 million cases per month. Now, that means that they're going to now penetrate the export market. That's what it's about. You start out in the local market. You maybe even work out some of your kinks. You're doing an import substitution there because you're competing with imported drinks from Trinidad and other places. But now you've reached a point of maturity and you've introduced technology and you're going to move now into the export market. And we're earning, guess what? Taxes, you're going to earn from that consumption taxes.
Absolutely.
So the more is produced is the more we're going to earn from consumption taxes. That is indirect taxation. And so it is you look in this tax reform at other things. How, for instance, one last thing, can we incentivize those who export foreign exchange in profits? How can we keep them to encourage them by a tax policy to retain and reinvest more of their foreign exchange in Jamaica?
Yes. Straight talking, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Honorable Audley Shaw, putting some key things on the agenda of discussion for us. We take a break, but we'll be right back.
The government's tax relief will benefit more than 250,000 people who pay income tax. The tax threshold will be moved from $592,800 to $1 million on July 1, 2016, and to $1.5 million on April 1, 2017. The government of Jamaica, building a partnership for economic growth and prosperity. The media landscape is awash with commercials offering a variety of loans, but consumers be cautious about these seemingly attractive deals. Loan companies sometimes practice over-lending to consumers and impose excessive fees and onerous contract terms. If you are seeking a loan, try to approach reputable organizations like banks and credit unions. Consider these points before you borrow: the purpose of the loan, the terms and conditions including the type of interest and the associated processing fees, the period for repayment, and other non-interest related charges. If you think a loan offer is misleading or false, contact the Consumer Affairs Commission. Call 906-5425, 906-8568, or 906-0813. They are located at 34 Trafalgar Road, Kingston 10.
The Minister of Finance and the Public Service, the Honorable Audley Shaw, is our guest. So Minister, you are prepared to challenge the IMF, not in an antagonistic way, not in a confrontationist way, but intellectually and technically to challenge the IMF about some of the arguments that it is putting forward and to come to a consensus. You're not just going to accept everything that they put to you.
No, because in fairness to them, they are not the ones who know all of the idiosyncrasies and peculiarities of our country.
Of your country.
We know it.
You know it.
We have to have the courage of our conviction
Yes.
to communicate it to them, and to do so in a fashion that is easily understood. You know, I give you an example. The Prime Minister, in his wisdom, and I agreed with him, decided that, okay, they didn't like what we initially proposed.
The 1.5.
At 1.5,
right.
that only those earning 1.5
right.
or less.
And
should
a
get
number
the
of
benefit
people
of the
locally
threshold.
also criticized
That's
that.
right.
Yes.
So we said, listen, we opened up the cabinet and we invited the IMF people.
Yes.
Come on, let's have a chat. Let's talk about it. So that all members of the cabinet, because we have a collective decision-making system, and we explored it and we looked at it and we realized that when their own suggestion was, if you're going to do it at all, you either do it lower or you do it in a phase basis at the higher level for everybody.
Okay. That was your
And
suggestion.
so right away, as finance minister, you could see that when I thought I had a $10 billion problem, over 2 years it became a $26 billion problem, right? So right away it set you thinking. But then you having started the conversation there and looking at all of the permutations and so on, and the conversation that we realized that it could work, right? And this is the power of dialogue and interaction, learning from one another.
Yes.
It's not about them knowing everything and dictating everything to us, and we say okay and bow.
That's
and
right.
so. No, it's about exchanging
ideas,
our various versions. And I mentioned a while ago to you, and I want to wrap up that one because it's another target I have, like the Junior Stock Exchange.
Yes.
Targeting the export of foreign exchange. How can I incentivize keeping some of it here?
Profits here.
It won't all stay here because some of them have raised money on the international capital markets. They have to service their obligations. I understand that. But let's say we could save some of that foreign exchange and incentivize its retention in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So retain some, reinvest it, and guess what? We have an investment tax credit. Now, people will say, hold on, you're giving up more taxes again? Hold on. If you're not giving up anything because you're not going to get it anyway, it was going to go away. Right? So this is the same kind of grudgeful thinking about the stock exchange.
Well, you know,
that if you're giving up profit in the junior stock exchange, it's too generous, you're giving up profit.
It's a zero-sum
No, we didn't give up profit. You know what happened? Having foregone the profit, we got the expansion. But across the range of the people that expanded, Jamaica Teas exporting, Nuts for the Express, Dolphin Cove, a whole range of other things.
Circle.
And guess what? GCT earned by the government has doubled. Sorry, what am I saying? 333% increase. From $200 million to almost $1 billion in GCT. NIS contributions has increased by about 40%. Almost doubled. NHT itself has almost doubled. PAYE has doubled in those companies and from their employees. So so we gave up the profit, but we have earned all of these other tax types and employee benefit types that redound to the welfare of employees over time.
So you're willing now to push
the envelope
for particular incentives to keep
foreign exchange in Jamaica.
Keep profits here.
And keep profits here. So, and
you're willing to argue with the IMF
and encourage the profits to be reinvested into Jamaica, creating more jobs and exporting goods and services.
But you know the IMF doesn't like the idea of special incentives.
I know.
But you're prepared to have a dialogue.
Have to be prepared to dialogue because my mother used to say circumstances alter cases and jackass here in our places. And they would add it up and say, well, lift them up and put them in the right and proper places.
You're in tune with the Jamaican culture.
Of course. And you must communicate that to the IMF too.
Absolutely. You're willing to to argue man to man with the
And
with
they're
IMF.
willing to listen.
And they're willing to
Listen,
listen.
I'm the one who re-engaged with the World Bank, the IDB, the IMF. You know, when I first met with Mr. Moreno in 2007, he said he couldn't understand why there was a negative transfer of funds from Jamaica to multilaterals, because we had virtually brought things down to such a low ebb. We were borrowing money, we were content to borrow money on the international capital markets at 10 to 12%, when these guys had money, 1 to 2%, 3% money to lend us. And we were not prepared to stick by their strictures and their programs. Instead, go to Wall Street, get the expensive money, and balloon our national debt. I started that reversal. I reversed that. And I never forget when I met with Mr. Moreno a few weeks ago in Washington, you know, because we borrowed about $1 billion from them, most of it at 2-3%.
Yes.
And when he walked in the room,
He remembered you, eh?
Everybody's there, and he said, here, you know, he's a diminutive man, here. He says, he's back.
He's back.
He said, $1 billion, and he's back.
That's what Moreno said about
Yes.
And you're willing to stand up to these multilaterals, to
Absolutely.
argue with them, to have the
Absolutely.
confidence in them.
Yes.
And you would say, Minister, finally, that the 1.5 was not just an election gimmick, was not just a means of getting into power. It was really a part of a strategic thinking of moving taxation away from burdening the PAY persons to bringing in others who would have to pay if that tax is
absolutely
would now
because
put
it's two
on
things. It's two
consumption.
things really that, among other things, that preoccupied our minds. We were thinking beyond the winning. We're thinking importantly, how are we going to govern this country on the basis that with all these dysfunctionalities that abide around us, lack of productivity, falling exports, lack of adequate production, and unemployment increasing, and the dollar being unstable. These are all things. We said, hold on, we're going to have to make some real serious game changers in here. And that 1.5 was to say, hold on now. The PAY people have been overburdened, but yet we are known to have a culture of tax evasion and tax avoidance. So what is the formula that we can use as part of a drive to become a prosperous society? A part of that formula, we made a decision, indirect taxation. It penetrates more into all of the crevices of the economy to raise the money without overburdening any one particular group.
Thank you very much, Minister. Quite a lot there, a lot of newsworthy things out of what the Minister has said. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Honorable Audley Shaw, with us on Issues and Answers. Next week I'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant day.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Search for its breeding sites and destroy them. A message from the Ministry of Health.
In the second phase of our response, we will focus on several measures which will emphasize partnerships to increase community-based intervention and individual responsibility. As part of this, Mr. Speaker, we will be providing some 20,000 bed nets over 6 months to all pregnant women who visit our antenatal clinics. These have been provided by the Food for the Poor organization. Food for the Poor has also provided paracetamol and fogging machines as part of the Zika response. We'll be carrying out vector control activities through fogging and larvicidal activities. We'll be working, Mr. Speaker, as part of the partnership across ministries and agencies with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries to reinstitute environmental control strategies through the use of the tiki-tiki fish. Some people know it as the banga fish, Mr. Speaker, in large containers that store water, such as tanks, to prevent mosquito breeding. These will be made available through the Rural Agricultural Development Parish offices, and we have been in dialogue with RADA and the Fisheries Division in particular to bring that program on stream. We'll be conducting heightened house-to-house surveillance in sections of the population where the infection has been notified or confirmed, and we'll be working with international partners such as PAHO, WHO, CARFO, and CDC to ensure that our actions are aligned with international standards and best practices. And of course, we'll be working closely, Mr. Speaker, with the private sector. A number of companies in the private sector have contributed and have offered to contribute to the awareness and cleanup program. The Ministry of Health, through the National Health Fund, will be providing $1 million to each MP, Member of Parliament, to support Zika activities at the constituency level. The funding will be channeled through the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development and will be available as of July 1st, 2016.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
We move on to something a bit lighter as our country continues to unearth talented artists. This week on Festival Corner, Word, Sound and Power.
Well, a hungry man, as them say, is an angry man. But it's all joy in this week's JCDC Festival Corner as we take a look at the National Speech Finals. From Standard English to Jamaican dialect, these fine set of performers would make our dialect queen, Miss Lou, proud. Let's take a look at some of the winning pieces, starting with dub poetry.
Who me? No, me the a hospital. Me a go mad. Oh God. Me shoulda really hear when mommy said no ride no bike. But me thief out at the yard. We hours at the night. Pick up me friend down the road when he a Mike. We all over the place. Never know we meet a plight. We do the one wheelie to the left and to the right. Then collide with the car that come with one light. Oh God, we fracture every morning at the foot on the right. Who me? That send me go a hospital. Cause me we mad. Oh God.
What a bit so. Them go up your man them to the pastor. I wonder which one go work faster. Them go away them church Sunday. One day Christian I call them Christian. Me have life and breath and a TV set. From a praise God me never hungry yet. Me a fly over heaven and me nah use jet. So go on chat. God never fail me yet.
All right, God never fail me yet. Good piece there from Mona Heights Primary. And our performers in the Jamaican dialect, them never fail we either.
Are you them say? I take wally pa English what? See I go and kill dialect? Let me get it straight, Mass Charlie. For me not quite understand. They go and kill all of the English dialect them, or it's just the Jamaican one. You have to go kill the Lancashire, the Yorkshire, and the Cockney. The broad Scotch and Irish broke them before you start kill me.
From I born, I never seen nothing like this yet.
A dog, come on, court as witness.
Really now, Miss Millie? Same thing could have got so.
The man licked the thieving, mangy, mongrel, non-ambitious dog. And him have all right to do it.
Poor Miss Millie and her dog, them don't stand a chance. Well, our final category highlight is in the Standard English section.
Oh, come on, my fellow people. Let's all join hands and sing praises, 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 praises for our nation. will be the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Such talented students. Before we go though, let's throw to this week's crowd favorite from the Herbert Morrison Technical High School performing "Cause We Are Dopey."
We just a ready, so make we enjoy the feast.
Now we name alone.
Make we rest in peace, cause we are doping at the day and not doping at the night.
Beautiful facial.
Put the living to fight. We are doping at the day and not doping at the night. We got to give you a prize.
That's how we close the curtains on this week's Festival Corner. Tune in